team, welcome to another episode of Ortho Out Loud. If I sound different or look a little different to some of you, it is because I'm not Scott. Scott is not here today. My name is Hope. I am part of the marketing team here at Fox Valley Orthopedics. I'm usually behind the camera, but I'm jumping in front today to fill in. Scott is busy taking care of patients today, and here at FVO, patients come first, so I am taking over while he is busy in the clinic. Today, we're talking with Dr. Joshua Alpert. He's a sports medicine specialist and surgeon, and we are talking to him all about prevention with injuries that can happen with warm-ups and cool-downs or the lack thereof. And we get into his background, his role in the community, so I think it's a fun one. Thanks for tuning in, and let's get into it. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Alpert. Welcome to Ortho Out Loud. Before we get into some of the meat of the episode of the talking about warm-ups and cool-downs and injury prevention and all that, I want to know a little bit more about you as Dr. Alpert, how you got into sports medicine. So start wherever you feel is appropriate with that.
Sure. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I guess I first wanted to become a doctor. I had an uncle who was a pediatrician, and I wanted to be a pediatrician when I was growing up. I went to summer camp. I loved being with young people and young athletes, and I was a counselor, and I was running the camp in leadership at the camp, and I just thought it'd be great to be a pediatrician and be a doctor. I really enjoyed the field of medicine. And then once I got into medical school and I started doing some of the rotations, and growing up I played basketball and baseball and golf, and I really enjoyed sports. And as time went on through medical school and training and seeing different things, I realized that pediatrics wasn't for me, particularly because it was so much of like young children, 6 months and younger, not a lot of interacting. Mm-hmm. I like to interact with people. I like to talk to people. So it became pretty clear to me that I enjoyed sports. I enjoyed doing surgery. I enjoyed seeing patients in the office. It was a nice combination. Different age groups from young kids all the way to older people. So I decided to become an orthopedic surgeon. It just kind of fit me and my personality.
Yeah, and a lot of our docs have said that, they didn't know exactly what they were going into, but kind of similar stories, either a general practitioner, a pediatrician, and then orthopedics came up in school or through their rotations, and it just sort of stood out. And it sounds like that's similar to what happened with you.
Yeah, I think that when for anyone who's trying to go to medical school or become a doctor, at the end of the day, you have to like what field you're in the most. You can
Right.
say I really only want to do like one part of medicine, or I only like one thing or another thing. But if you don't like your job day to day, and that's one of the things I love about being at Fox Valley Orthopedics, I really do love my job, is the people you're with, your day-to-day activities. If you like a variety, like as an orthopedic surgeon, you have days in the office and days in surgery. You get to interact with different people. That was something that I liked. There were other of my medical school colleagues that just wanted to read x-rays and not interact with patients. And that's just what they love or they liked. So this is something that really felt natural to me.
Yeah, you get a little bit of that best of both worlds in the office interacting. So with that, what are the days that you look forward to the most?
I think most orthopedic surgeons, particularly me, we enjoy our surgery days. At our surgery center, those are days that I really enjoy. I like the staff there. I like all the staff that I work with, but surgery is something where it's something where you're working. You're in sports medicine. A lot of it's with an arthroscopic camera, so it's almost like, in some ways, almost like playing a video game where you have a camera in and you're using your hands and you're looking at a screen. And you get to interact with people in the operating room. So I enjoy that, and I just enjoy performing surgery.
Yeah, it definitely sounds, from my perspective, different than a video game, but that's interesting. So as you know, I'm part of the marketing team, and we work a lot. I've worked with you at certain events and sponsorships and stuff. You're very involved in the community in Elgin and the surrounding Fox Valley area. So what I want to know, and I want you to tell our listeners a little bit more about, is why is being a part of the community important to you, and what are some of your favorite areas in that aspect to be a part of?
Sure. Well, I think that if you're going to practice in a community, being part of the community is really important, because people as a physician, people need you. They need help. They're in orthopedics. They are injured. They are hurting. And it's nice to know whether it's the orthopedic group like Fox Valley Orthopedics or the doctor in particular. For me, as a sports medicine physician, when I first started, we had a relationship with Dundee Crown High School in Carpentersville, and I was the team doctor there, where I would stand on the sidelines for games. But not only that, I would give lectures to the students, or I'd go to the Dundee Crown High School so that people got to know me a little bit, and then on the sidelines when I'm at the games. And
so when you say sidelines and like you're at the game, so what does that look like? Are you at like the football games? What's your role in that?
So when you're the team doctor for the school, like I am at Dundee Crown, Friday night home games and some away games, I'm on the sidelines. There's athletic trainers, so there is an athletic trainer team that works at the school, and then I am on the sidelines. And when an athlete gets injured, the athletic trainer takes a look at them, and often I will see them as well. It's very nice for the school because anytime someone gets hurt, whether I'm on the sidelines or if I'm not there, we get them into our office right away the same day. We're open on Saturdays as well, so we'll do that. And then for me, as time has gone on, I've now become the team doctor at Elgin High School, Larkin High School, South Elgin High School, and I take care of Judson College. Nice. And I really enjoy doing that. I get to meet the athletes, I get to meet the teachers and the coaches and the community, and people get to know me, and it's just a really nice part of being a sports medicine surgeon.
Have you been at a game when someone's been injured and you've had to step in?
Yeah, I have. So there's been times where one of the most common injuries in high school football is when someone dislocates their shoulder, where the shoulder ball in the socket, it pops out from a hard hit, or someone lands with their arm straight out. And in those instances, I've had to go there and reduce it or pop it back into place, either on the sidelines, either on the field when they're there or on the sidelines. The other injuries we see fairly often are when someone tears their anterior cruciate ligament or the ACL in the knee. That's one of the main stabilizers in the knee, and those are times where we have to go on the field, or when the student athlete comes off the field, we can examine the knee until it's loose and be concerned for those kind of injuries.
And now something like an ACL tear, in real time on the field, they're not getting back up and going in the game, right?
Correct. And that's one of the important things about having a doctor on the field is sometimes a patient hurts their knee and they limp off, and I'll examine them and the knee feels completely stable and they're able to walk on it and it's not swollen, and I'll say, you know what, I think the knee's going to be okay, and they can maybe go back in. Yeah. Other times I'll examine the knee and it feels incredibly loose when I do special tests. It looks swollen. They can't walk on it, and I have to tell that athlete and the coach, who's not always happy with me, that they can't go in. It's not safe for the athlete to come in. They have to get an x-ray. They have to go get an MRI, and they have to make sure that the knee is okay, or if it's injured, that it may need surgery at some point. You
said just now that the coaches are not super happy with you sometimes if you give that diagnosis of, he's not going back in, this knee's too loose. So what's that like? Do you find that coaches are more often resistant?
I think that in the heat of the moment, often the coaches can get a little frustrated because it's one of their good players and they're in a game, or if it's a playoff game. But ultimately, they never disagree with you and say, no, you cannot, the player has to go in. They understand. They're just frustrated from a game perspective that one of their players can't get on. I do have one. When I was training, I was out in Boston, and we were taking care of the New England Revolution, which is the professional soccer team. And I don't know a lot about, at the time I didn't know a lot about soccer. I played baseball and basketball and golf growing up. So one of the soccer players, and we took care of the Patriots, the football team and everything. So in football, someone gets hurt, they come out, someone else goes in for them. So there was a soccer player who got hurt and might have had a concussion. So he was having a hard time, he was dizzy, so I was evaluating him. And I was relatively new in my training, and I was really taking my time evaluating him, seeing if he was safe to go back, if he really had a concussion or not. And out of nowhere, the coach, who I don't really know, comes over and starts yelling at me if he can play or not. And I didn't understand why he was so upset. And I realized that in soccer, it's 11 on 11. And once you take somebody out and hold them out, if you sub them out, they can't go back in. When they're injured, they can go back in, but the team was playing 11 on 10. So I hadn't realized for like 10 minutes they were playing 11 on 10. And
that they needed to swap someone out.
And if they swapped him out, then the athlete couldn't go back in. So the coach didn't swap him out because they wanted him to go back in if he was healthy. But I was sitting there taking my time and no sense of urgency. So sometimes that can happen in those kind of sports.
Well, Well, thank you, Dr. Alpert. I want to get into some of the meat of the episode about warm-ups and cool-downs and the importance of that, injuries that you see or don't see when people don't warm up and cool down properly, don't do it at all. What's your opinion on that?
Sure. So I think that when somebody is training, whether it's a 5K or they're trying to get stronger, they're trying to get faster, they're trying to get better, there's a quote that I sort of like that I think is really important. And when I have two daughters, I coach them. I say this often, and it's how you do anything is how you do everything. So if your goal is to get stronger, if your goal is to run faster or run a 5K for the Elgin Foxtrot, how you prepare, how you do anything is how you do everything. How you prepare for that is incredibly important. And part of the way to prepare is to have a good warm up in anything you do. You need to get your muscles warmed up. You can't just go run a 5K. You can't just go play a softball game. You can't just you can't just win a wrestling match. You have to get a really good warm up in. And often what that starts is with like a little bit of a jog to get the muscles going, a little bit of cardio. And once you get some heat going into your muscles, then getting a good stretch. And that stretch can be 15 or 20 minutes of the important body parts that you're going to be working. And if you don't get a good stretch before, you are at a much higher risk for injury, whether it's pulling a hamstring, injuring your back, and you're also at a much higher risk of not performing the way you want to. So it isn't just an injury risk, but it's a performance if you're looking to perform.
Now, you said get that warmth, the blood flowing before you stretch. So should people do like jumping jacks before they start stretching? Because I know a lot of people just go right into the stretching.
Yeah, I think any kind of cardio, whether it's if you can get on a stationary bike, if you can jog for 5 minutes, if you can do jumping jacks or even like push-ups, something to get your heart rate going, get the blood flowing, going to your muscles is incredibly important. And
is that to prevent injury from stretching too?
Well, it makes the stretching a lot easier. If you ever just try and someone just says, hey, go touch your toes, usually you just can't go, at least as an old guy, I can't do that right now. But it takes time to kind of warm those muscles up, stretch those muscles up before you can fully get a good stretch. So if you're already warmed up before you start stretching, you will have a much better stretch. People can also get injured doing aggressive stretches if they're not warmed up yet.
That makes sense. And do you run? Do you train for something like 5Ks ever? Do you do it with your daughters?
So I used to in my younger days. I used to play softball 4 days a week, play basketball 3 or 4 days a week, and I used to go for runs and jogs when I was in my 20s and 30s. And as time has got on, for me personally, running is incredibly great for your heart, for your lungs, for your brain. You feel good. It's an incredible workout. Some people can keep doing it into an older age, and others cannot. So I had to stop. I had a problem with one of my ankles, and Achilles was bothering me, and so I had to stop playing basketball and running because it was just for me as I've gotten older, it's just a little bit too much impact for me. But I still do biking. I still play softball. I still do golf and pickleball and things like that. Just the running long distances for me is something that I've stopped doing.
I think that's good for our listeners to hear because even if you're not training for a 5K, there's plenty of other races that you can get involved in that still kind of exercises the cardio muscle and things like that. Is there a favorite stretch that you like to give to your patients, or do you focus on something else with them to prevent injuries?
Well, there are times we have handouts that we give patients of different stretches to do. We have 10 different physical therapy locations around Fox Valley in our offices and in the area that we often send patients to. Even if they just go, sometimes we'll say, go one time to the therapist, spend an hour with them. They'll show you the best ways and safest ways to stretch out. For me personally, I think the hamstring is incredibly important, which starts in the upper buttock area, and it actually goes below your knee and it inserts below the knee. So getting a really good hamstring stretch, one of the best ones is standing straight up and putting your heel on a chair, keeping that knee straight and bending down. that's a really great hamstring stretch, or laying on your back and putting your leg up on a wall, heel on the wall, and trying to push it back. Really good hamstring stretches. Those are really important, and also one of the most common muscles and tendons to damage.
And you mentioned before we started a little bit about overuse injuries. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's one of the most common things I see in my office, particularly when it's like in September, when kids are coming back to school and starting their sports again, or at the end of the summer or the end of the spring when baseball injuries, the kids have been throwing a lot. I see a lot of those shoulder injuries or running injuries from overuse. And I think what's really important is to change up your workout. Changing your workup is really important. If you're training for the Elgin Foxtrot for the 5K, one day you want to, maybe you want to run a 5K. The next day, I would say you just want to do interval training with sprints. Third day would be a rest day. Fourth day might be weights, lower extremity weights, and then start that again. The injuries that I see are like cross-country runners or runners who are just running 10, 20 miles every single day over and over again. That's how you get shin splints, stress fractures, plantar fasciitis, all kinds of overuse conditions where then you have to shut down for 6 or 8 weeks sometimes, and that can be very debilitating. It's because of the way you're training.
So if someone who is like who you're mentioning, they're running every single day and they're noticing some pain in their shins, when would you not recommend ignoring pain? Because I know some athletes like to ignore pain.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between soreness and kind of feeling like a little bit of a burn when you're working out versus actual pain. And if you're having the pain to the point where you have to stop what you're doing, if when it comes to running, you have to stop running, or if you stop and then you try to run again like an hour later or the next day and you can't, then you really need to shut it down. And often you need to see a doctor because there is a concern. The biggest concern is a stress fracture. Shin splints is inflammation of some of the tendons and ligaments around the middle of your leg and the tibia bone in the shin area. But sometimes that can also present exactly like a stress fracture. And you need to get x-rays or even an MRI at times, or shut down from running for 4 weeks at least to avoid that from happening. Yeah,
I know a lot of runners would not like to hear that. They would not want to take that much time off.
Yeah, what I tell my patients is I say to them, listen, I play sports. I'm super active. My daughters play sports. I never want to tell anyone not to play their sport. That's the last thing I want. I don't want to tell a young athlete they can't play their senior year for the last month of softball or cross country. I don't want to tell someone in their 40s they can't go play pickleball or run in the Foxtrot. But sometimes your body's telling you, it's the body, your body's saying, listen, you're physically unable to, it's hurting, there's damage, there's a structural problem, and you have to shut it down or you're going to make it worse.
And you mentioned physical therapy and how we have a really unique thing here at Fox Valley Orthopedics with physical therapy and how that communication between you guys as doctors with our physical therapists. Can you talk a little bit about how you use our physical therapy services here and how that might be different than other systems?
Yeah, one thing I really like about our own organization's physical therapy is the ability to communicate. So our physical therapists can look at our patients' notes, since we're sharing the patients, and see what the doctor's writing in the notes. Though physical therapists can text or email or call us at any time with any questions if there's issues. And if a patient is not doing as well as expected, we can get the patient in right a lot quicker, or they can communicate with that with us. If the therapist is not sure what the protocol is for the rehabilitation or what exactly the doctor wants, there are times they can communicate with us. And then I think access, it's hard sometimes to get into physical therapy, and we have good access to our care. And many times I'll say to my patients, just go once or twice. Maybe you want to go twice a week for 6 weeks. The prescription's good for 6 weeks. But you may just want to go once or twice, learn the exercises. Our therapist will print out a nice program as well, and then you can do it on your own.
Most of our locations, we have in-house physical therapy. Right now, we're in our Geneva North location, and there's one right across from where we're at. Do you stop in and see your patients at physical therapy?
I like just like as the team doc for these high schools and Judson College, I want people to know me,
Right.
And know who I am and feel comfortable having access to me. I do the same thing with our therapists. So I'm in my Barrington office on Fridays. Every Friday morning, I stop over, say hi to the physical therapist. There might be a new one. I want them to know me. And then I'll see my patients there, getting their rehab in, and I say hi to them, and I think they enjoy seeing me there. And I'll do the same thing in our Elgin office. Those are my two main locations. So I think being able to show your face, communicate with the physical therapists that are connected to our spaces is a nice thing from a communication standpoint.
And I think, as I was sort of saying before, that doesn't happen a lot with doctors versus patients in a lot of bigger areas, and so that is nice to hear. And I think for a lot of people listening, that would be enticing to have that communication.
Well, I think that one of the other things that I know is very nice about our organization with our electronic medical record, with our electronic medical system, patients can reach out on our patient portal or on an app and be able to text or communicate with us. And then for me personally, on my business card, every patient gets my email. So if anybody ever wants to email me, I try to be the most accessible person around, and patients seem to really like that.
Injuries don't wait for appointments, and neither should you. That's why Fox Valley Orthopedics offers Ortho First, a walk-in orthopedic clinic where you can see a specialist the same day you're injured. No referral, no long wait times, at the fraction of the cost. With Ortho First, you get expert orthopedic care right away, plus on-site x-rays, MRIs, casting, and bracing, all designed to get you back to what you love faster. We have 6 convenient locations in Algonquin, Geneva, Elgin, Barrington, and Yorkville, with extended evening and Saturday hours at select locations. Walk in today or visit feortho.com to learn more. You can also call our toll-free number at 855-386-7846, Ortho First, because first steps matter. Okay, Dr. Alpert, before we wrap up today, it's my favorite segment. It's our rapid fire question segment. And so you're going in completely blind to these questions. They're just supposed to be fun, silly, so answer them however you'd like. So does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite type of sports injury to treat and why?
I really enjoy doing surgery on shoulder rotator cuff tears. That's a relatively fun, straightforward surgery. Patients do very well afterwards. It's something that's straightforward, for at least for me to diagnose, treat, do the surgery on, and then when they do well, it's really nice when they seem to be happy with it.
What is or would be your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, I have the worst voice ever. I guess the first one that came into my head was "Don't Stop Believin'" by Journey.
Okay,
just because hopefully someone else in the audience would help me out and come up there.
That's funny. What is a movie that you will always stop to watch if it's on TV?
The Breakfast Club.
Big John Hughes fan?
John Hughes fan. I grew up in where he filmed all of his movies. I used to, in like 6th or 7th grade, every day after school, go home with one of my buddies, and we would watch either Breakfast Club or we would watch this movie called House Party.
Oh, yeah,
which is another fun one, and just quote those lines all day long.
Love it. Okay, if you could instantly master one hobby or skill that isn't orthopedic surgery or anything having to do with medical anything, what would it be?
I really like to be able to play an instrument. I love music, love going to concerts, love live music, whether it was the guitar or the piano. I'm like just wasn't built that way, but I would, my kids at one point were taking piano lessons and I was doing it with them, and I was trying to learn with them, and then they faded out and I faded out. But I'd like to learn piano or guitar.
Could you ever see yourself doing it later, maybe like after retirement at some point?
I've thought about it. I mean, it's just, it's the old 10,000 hours, Malcolm Gladwell, where that's how long you have to train to get good at something. And if I ever have time, I would love to.
Don't have those 10,000 hours,
Not right now, no.
What is your most used emoji in texts?
I like the fist bump. I feel good. I feel like when there's like a fist bump, you get a connection.
Camaraderie.
It just feels good. Who doesn't want a fist bump?
Yeah, right. I will have to use that more. What shoes do you wear up in surgery?
I wear gym shoes.
A particular brand?
I like wearing Brooks. Brooks are incredibly comfortable, great for runners. I discovered them a few years ago because of my Achilles issue, and they've been phenomenal. Really
and you
comfortable.
have some on right now.
And I have some on right now.
Yes.
Brooks, yeah, that's my go-to.
I'm pretty sure Scott has the either similar or the exact same pair.
Oh,
so that's funny.
Nice.
Are there any outdated treatments that you're glad are gone or at least less prominent in the sports medicine field?
Well, I mean, there's newer ways to do ACL surgery now, where you put the ACL in a more anatomic or better position. So even when I was training, there was a way the ACL be put in that was totally reasonable at the time, but there was a higher failure rate. So now the way we do ACL surgeries in the knee, we're putting it in a more anatomic position, and I'm glad to see patients do better, and the re-tear rate's a lot less.
Have you ever watched a medical show and yelled at the screen?
Yeah, this is all the time. So my wife loves Grey's Anatomy. She's still watching it. It's still on. Every time I walk in, there's something going on that makes me really get frustrated. There was one time where I walked in and there was like a guy who was a threat to people in the hospital, and the hospital was on lockdown. And the guy, first he's in like the surgery suites doing stuff he shouldn't be doing. Then he's in like the cafeteria. Then he's in the doctor's lounge. Then he's in a patient room. And I'm thinking, like, if I don't have my ID, I can't get into the door to our surgery center. So how is this guy with the whole hospital on lockdown going from different parts of the hospital, just popping around? And there was something else my wife asked me once. She's like, if someone has a bomb like in their chest or it's going to explode, is that real? Or if you hold it in a certain way? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but none of this is real. And so I would get frustrated about that. But there is a new show that I started watching called The Pit, which is on HBO. It's so good. And that is incredibly realistic. Realistic.
I've heard that from other nurses, doctors, so that's interesting. You have the same thought.
That one's real.
And for anyone listening and future FVO patients, we are very secure, and there can't be anyone bopping around upstairs.
No, once there's a lockdown, you can't go anywhere. You're locked in.
Right. Okay, last question. What is your most used phrase with patients, if you have one? Like, so what is something that you might say to give them advice or encouragement, or just something that you just say all the time?
Well, I think that for me, one of the first things I do when I hear what's going on with a patient is I try really hard to like put myself in that patient's shoes. So I often will start with first, I'm so sorry this happened to you. I'm sorry that you fell down the steps, or it really stinks that your shoulder's killing you right now. When it's an athlete, a young kid who, for instance, tore their ACL in their knee, and I have to give them those results, and they're often emotional or upset, I really try hard to start with, I'm really sorry this is happening, and this really stinks, and if this happened to one of my family members or me, I would feel really upset and be emotional and upset too, because that's how I would feel, and I feel terrible when I have to tell these patients that. And then what I then say is, I say, here's what we're going to do. This is how we're going to fix you up. Here's the plan. You'll be back in the field in 4 months or 6 months, and we'll get you there, but it's going to be tough. So I think it's really important to I try to connect with my patients and understand how they're feeling, because it's a really stressful situation for them.
That's definitely appreciated, because sometimes it's devastating. If there's a senior athlete and they're done for the rest of the football season or whatever their sport is. So, well, thank you so much, Dr. Alpert, for being here. This has been a great episode, and there's so many takeaways from overuse injuries, comments on cool downs, warm-ups, the importance of both. We appreciate you giving some stories and insight on your everyday life as a sports medicine surgeon and specialist. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Ortho Out Loud. I had so much fun stepping into the hosting role this episode and speaking with Dr. Alpert. It was the perfect episode to wrap up our debut season of the podcast. This may be the end of season 1, but it's not the end of Ortho Out Loud. We're just taking a short break over the next several weeks to shape what's next for season 2. And we're really looking forward to returning with new topics and voices you haven't heard yet. In the meantime, we do have one more episode, a bonus episode, to share with you. And that'll be coming next week. So be sure to follow us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. And also be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already, to be the first to know when it's live. You can also follow us on social media to stay up to date on all things Ortho Out Loud and also everything else we do here at Fox Valley Orthopedics. And to everyone who's listened, watched, and shared our episodes with family and friends, thank you. It's been a privilege to bring these stories and information to life, and we can't wait to do it all over again. See you soon.
This podcast features insights from orthopedic specialists at Fox Valley Orthopedics. While we hope you find these discussions helpful, we are not giving you medical advice or providing opinions about your specific medical conditions or concerns. The views expressed on this podcast are not a substitute for personalized medical advice. If you have questions about a medical condition or treatment, please consult your own trusted healthcare professional. Never ignore professional medical advice or delay seeking care because of something you heard on this podcast. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Fox Valley Orthopedics or its affiliated organizations. Any decisions made based on the information provided in this podcast are done so at your own risk, and Fox Valley Orthopedics disclaims and is not responsible for any actions taken as a result of this content. If you are experiencing a medical emergency, please call 911 and seek immediate medical attention.